What's up, guys? Velayo here, one of the founders of the Cadre, and we're super excited to bring to you the Cardre Podcast. Out of all of the content that we want to generate for you guys, honestly, the podcast is probably going to be our lowest lift because honestly, it's just going to be a conversation between either myself and some instructors or the instructors talking and debriefing maybe after actions from a precision rifle competition or event, or maybe an in-person training event where we talk about some common trends that we see with our students. Now, I've been doing this professionally as a professional instructor for years now. Not only that, but hosting podcasts. And I realized that we're going to have shooters that are looking for information to start their journey as a long-range shooting, all the way up to that top-level competitor that's trying to improve their processes by 1%. And our goal with this podcast is to hopefully provide value to both ends of the spectrum, as well as everyone in between, to, again, hopefully just give you a little bit of insight of our journey as not only competitive shooters, but also instructors in this space. And realistically, our passion for precision rifle training and shooting started during our time as Marine Corps Scout Snipers. And as of the recording of this video, the Scout Sniper community actually went away, but that hasn't stopped our passion for wanting to give back to the current active duty snipers that are either in the reconnaissance elements in the Marine Corps or the MARSOC elements, as well as our sister agencies like the law enforcement side or the Army side. But realistically, our passion for even teaching the trade of precision rifle shooting extends to enthusiasts, precision hunters, and competitors alike. So we hope that, again, you're able to provide value out of these conversations that me and my team have, or my team has amongst themselves. And it's not always going to be Velayo or Jon Bumpus or Matt Solo. Our goal here is to hopefully just have the guys or the instructor team jump on the mic and be able to, again, talk about what is relevant to them, what they're up to with regard to their training, and what type of rifle projects they might be building. So in the case that you find this on day one or a year from now, you're able to, like I said, jump in with both feet and start immediately getting value from our podcast, as well as some additional insights. So this first podcast, I hop on a call with the two other founders, Jon Bumpus and Matt Solowinski. And essentially we talk about how all of our paths and how they crossed during our time as Scout Sniper instructors. And ultimately, when I got out of the Marine Corps and those two stayed in to continue their career as active duty service members, how we all kind of realigned and reconnected to stand up the Cadre, and ultimately what our purpose for the Cadre and our mission for the Cadre is. So hopefully you enjoyed the episode. Let us know down in the comments what type of content not only do you want to hear from us via podcast, but also the different type of content that you want to see us produce on our regular YouTube channel. We're open to all ears. And like I said, we just want to be able to provide value to you guys and get back to a community that gave to us so much, that we're able to use these skills today professionally to obviously put food on our table for our families. So yeah, if you want to find out a little bit more information, head over to our website. I'll put the links down below, whether you're listening to this on a car drive or watching this on YouTube. I'll provide all the links in the description. So like I said, hopefully you guys enjoy this episode, and we will see you in the next video. Okay, guys, we are live. Happy Wednesday. It's the day after 0311 day.
It is Wednesday.
I think we're all 0311s by trade before we became, well, obviously, John, you had to go through all the whole 0311 pipeline first, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
They still did that back then. Yep.
for sure. So you can claim that you didn't split off.
Yeah. 0 through 11 at heart.
unlike this new generation. For those that don't know, 0311 is the MOS code for infantry riflemen, and it is the, you essentially have to be an 0311 or an infantryman to, you don't have to be an 0311, but you have to be an infantryman in order to become a Marine Scout Sniper, which all three of us are. So, yeah, welcome to episode 1 of the Cardre Podcast. We've got myself, Phil Velayo. If you're listening to a Precision Rifle podcast, if you've probably heard me on previous podcasts, I'm no stranger to podcasts. And I've got my 2 really good friends and business partners here as well. Starting with Matt Solowinski.
What's up?
And Jon Bumpus.
What's up, everybody?
So we are talking who is the Cadre. Kind of a little backstory of how we all met, how our journeys through our time as Marine Scout Snipers kind of converged at the Scout Sniper Schoolhouse, then kind of where we went from there, and then kind of what brought us back to birth this concept or passion project that we have, or as Solo says, y'all have dreams. So cool. I'll start off right. I met both of you guys. Well, Solo, you and I go way back to our days at 1st Battalion, 4th Marines.
Sir.
I was already in the platoon, and this was 2010. We had just got back from the 15th Mute, and you took the 1-4 indoctrination, and got selected. And then you and I essentially, we actually didn't even start a working relationship because you and I both started getting schooled out.
Yeah, because I remember. I think you said you were like behind the scenes. I don't think I actually saw you during selection because you had just got back, and then very briefly. I mean, it was before even post deployment leave.
Mm-hmm.
I think they ran the selection like that very first week of January of 2011. 5 days of fun in the sun and in the dark. And then I think we were with the platoon for a week. Then we went on post deployment leave, which I think was only 10 days. It was something short. Because I had been with the platoon for like 21 days before I got my first shot at school. Because Staub and Brad decided to break an ankle and break a knee. And so they were like, Solo, you're up. I was like, okay, here we go.
That's tough. I wish, and I want to reserve a whole podcast just for like what it actually takes to go to sniper school. Cause there's, it's not like you could just easily weasel your way in there, right? The funnel and the checklist. So anyways, that's a whole nother thing in itself. Yeah. So I didn't say you lucked out, right? Cause like, it's not, as you call it, it's like creating opportunities. Like you create an opportunity for yourself to be in the best position to eventually go to sniper school.
Yeah. And honestly, had I not gone that first time, I don't even know if I would have been on the docket for the second time. Just because of the way it played out, you know what I mean? Like, again, obviously there's a pecking order and performance is what it is. I kind of had a reputation as being the grand old man of 1-4 already. Because I'd already done 3 pumps with previous platoons. And to be honest, like I said, those 2 dudes got hurt. They're like, hey, Solo, you're up. Based off and it was really based off seniority because we had a young platoon commander, a young platoon sergeant. They didn't know anybody from anything. I had known all the hogs. Either they were my junior Marines, like their first pump, or when they first got to the unit before they went snipers. So I think it was kind of one of those like, hey, based off what we know about the new group of guys that just came to the platoon, like best potential was Solo. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I went 9 weeks where I was basically like shotgun blast of learning everything on the fly at a course that's designed for you to show what you already know.
Yeah.
And yeah, come week 9, didn't make it. But that obviously was allowed me to phase pick up on their next course, where had I not gone the first time, again, because I mean all the dudes in the platoon were studs. Maybe they outperformed me before the next course, and they got the slots that I did, and then I may not be sitting here at all.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So I think we deployed together. We were roommates.
Yep.
For that deployment. Because there was only like a few I mean, it was mainly the team leaders that were snipers. And
yeah,
then,
I think we had 7, not including. Oh no, I think they did include a platoon sergeant because
TL and A, essentially just the TL and ATLs were team leaders, and we only had 3 teams.
Yeah, and I think me and you were the only sergeants at the time.
Yeah. Well, other than Morales.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. And then we got back from that deployment. You went to pre-sniper. I stayed around with the platoon to do one more deployment with Sullivan, and then we kind of went our separate ways from there. We still kind of maintained a working relationship. And then 2015, I just got selected to go to sniper school, where I met Mr. Jon Bumpus, our flagship reconnaissance Marine reconnaissance scout sniper, or Bobley Swagger. I'm always going to say that. Did I say it in the last podcast? I think I've said it for every podcast.
Say it every podcast.
Yeah.
If not, you have now.
You know, it gets under my skin. No, I was thinking when you guys were talking, it's funny because we were all like, obviously me and Matt, well, not obviously, I guess for the viewers, but me and Matt went to sniper school together on his first go. And it's funny because you were talking and I'm like, man, our timelines were so similar, even though we were in separate locations, separate units, etc. Like, I had got back from a deployment late 2010, and then I was in pre-sniper shortly after that, early 2011, like right after pre-deployment or post-deployment leave. And then picked up in that course. I think it was 2 TAC 11.
Yep, yeah, because I graduated 3 TAC on my second attempt.
You graduated with all my homies, Steve Pace, Pete Michelino, those guys.
All those knuckleheads.
Brandon
they were a
Denning.
blast during stalking too.
Yeah, I've been talking with Steve a lot lately.
Yeah.
He's down in Texas, and I'm headed down there, so I'm looking
that's
forward to
badass.
linking him up. I'm gonna get him into competing and stuff like that. But aside from the sidetrack, early 2011, go to sniper school, go back to battalion, do deployment, and then shortly thereafter, I got orders to the Recon Training Company. I worked over at pre-BRC and BRC for a while, which is the basic reconnaissance course. And then at the sniper schoolhouse, we always have one recon Marine position over there. And luckily, my timing worked out, and I was, the right individual to fill that spot. So early 2014, was it 2014 or 15? Late 14, I want to say. I went over to the sniper schoolhouse, and that's where I first met Phil. I think you had checked in maybe like a week or two ahead of me, but we were like getting there right around the same time.
Yeah, we both started 1 TAC 15. We essentially, I was only there for like it was off cycle, and we were waiting to pick up the cycle because I just graduated McKick, and then immediately went over to AIT, which I got lucky because I shouldn't say I got lucky because
no, you got lucky.
yeah. I was honor grad at McKick though.
Yeah.
And First Sergeant Ortega, or Sergeant Major Ortega, who was our first sergeant in Iraq, that kind of helped out as well.
Yeah, I would also.
I don't mean lucky. Yeah. I don't mean lucky as in like, oh, you skated by. Like, I mean, you got lucky simply avoiding.
Yes.
Yeah. What else could have?
What else could have happened for sure?
Because that's what I would say. That's what happened to me when I went through. It was like, hey, you're going to sniper school. You're going to sniper school, and then it was like, oh no, MCT and ITP don't have enough staff sergeants, so all binding requests are out the window unless you were the honor grad.
Yeah.
So you never know. Like I said, you could be told something all the way up until the day they hand you your fucking billet, and you're like, oh, dang. Which total random. I don't want to
Yeah.
get too sidetracked, but were you at BRC when Steve was there, or was he there prior to you?
So Steve and me always played like leapfrog in my whole
Okay,
career.
so he was
So
on his way out when you came in.
I got to battalion, and he was like my first team leader figure for a few months, and then he went to BRC, and then I got to BRC, and I worked like a class with him, and then he went back to battalion.
Oh, okay. I couldn't. I think you told me that before. I couldn't remember. I was like, shoot.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. I didn't want to get too sidetracked, but it's just weird because
Yeah.
again, that's just another one of the interweavings of the crew.
Yep.
Because me and him
Steve
did
and
boot
I.
camp together.
Sorry.
No. I mean, it's good.
No.
It's crazy how all of our timelines are kind of, I mean, just because you and Steve, for everyone that's listening, Steve Holland is one of our instructors at the Cadre, and Steve, I put through cyber school. John and I put through cyber school.
Yeah.
And Matt,
I
Solo,
and I went to boot camp.
Yeah,
with him.
That's crazy. And,
Dude,
yeah. Like side by side on the rifle range, like
and
talking shit to each other as we're launching rounds at 500.
Yeah, and so like I was saying, like I checked into battalion and first recon battalion, and like 2-3 weeks later, Steve is getting back from an Iraq deployment, and he's going to be my team leader. And then fast forward a few years, and I'm his instructor at sniper school, and then I leave the schoolhouse, go back to battalion, and me and him are in a workup together to go on a deployment together. It's just like constant interweaving of everybody's like, career path for all of us, which is pretty cool.
No, and
yeah, I never.
It's cool because it eventually comes full circle, right? I mean, to today, which we were talking about, and so. Yeah, I mean, so John, you left the schoolhouse after the first year. We did the first 3 classes together, and then you essentially, and we'll talk about this in your own podcast. I think we're just gonna fast forward for our timeline here. What happened when we all went our separate ways? So I obviously got out of the Marine Corps. I was a quitter, so I got out at right shy of 11 years. And I mean, everyone knows my story. I taught at Gunworks, and then after Gunworks, was my modern day sniper, and then left that and just continued to stay in the precision rifle community since really, or I mean, the long range community since 2000, honestly, 2007 when I 2008 when I got to the platoon. But what happened after cyber school for you guys? Wait, real quick. Matt and I ended up being at the schoolhouse together for like the last, I think
it was the last 2 courses or last 3 courses for you.
Yeah, I was gonna say like the last 6 to 9 months that I was there, but it was like kind of what you're doing now. Like I was like checking out, right?
Yeah. Well, because
I was also in limbo too.
Yeah, because I was say you were back and forth on the fence with the monitor, but we actually, I want to say we did all 3 of the scout courses together, and then we did one, and that makes sense with 6 to 9 months because we had like 3 days in between each one of those because they were like, hey, you can make any adjustments you want. I was like, yeah, over Saturday and Sunday, no, and I can't remember. It was either 1 or 2 basic courses together, before you took off. And then I was there since I'd already done a year at MCT, I had 2 years left. So I think I was there for like 2, maybe 3 more classes.
Okay.
Yeah, because you were gone in 18, I was gone in 19. Yeah. So I left July of 19 is when I took off to June. So I guess with that, just rolling into my path, from there, July of 19, I ended up getting selected for gunny. Well, so obviously with that coming orders as well that I was already pending. Jim basically hit me up and was like, you can go Twin Out Palms, you can go 2nd UTG, or you can go to Bridgeport. One of the 3 sniper schoolhouses. Well, 29 Palms is like their sniper cadre for like TTCG, the training guys, the evaluators. My wife and kids had already shifted over to North Carolina with the expectation of me following, which is why me and you were we were living together at the time. I was crashing on the couch. So I ended up taking those, and I ended up at second year TG, where I did the chief instructor for the urban sniper and the aerial sniper program there, and then helped out with the CQT course. Got certified as a breacher, where I went up to Quantico to take the course, where Jon was my direct instructor there. Where every time I'd ask him a question, he's like, "No, bro, this is how I do it. All that other stuff is that's a whole bunch of steps." And I was like, "I don't know if I should be listening to you." And he's like, "No, you'll be fine." Which again worked out. I did, yeah, which worked out. And then I think that's where you first met Corey, because Corey went up there with me, because he was my A/ for urban. Then also did all 700 RNS patrols, because they were like, you and Corey are snipers, so you'll go on every RNS patrol all over the country with second recon. And then from there, I ended up getting orders up to Quantico, where I'm at now, where I took over as the chief instructor with the intent of taking over the staff NCOIC once Preuss executed orders. Ended up getting selected for Master Sergeant before Preuss ever left. And then so basically Preuss got orders out in January of 24. And February of 24, I got pulled up to operations chief. But by then the sniper school had already shut down. October of 23, we transitioned to PMs, and then I did a handoff with Bazone, and he took over for the PM course for about 6 months before he got bumped up. Not even 6 months before he got bumped up to ops chief for that company. And then I've been sent at the ops chief all the way up until time now, 12 March of 2025, where basically now I am oversight for all of the training, live fire requests, logistics requests, and making sure any and everything that has to do with live fire in Quantico on our half of the base goes smooth. And if it doesn't, I'm the one who makes the phone calls and says, "Hey, effer, why is this broken? What do I need to do to fix it?" So I spent a lot of time talking to the range control people, which is where I spent 6 hours of my life today. And that's basically me in a nutshell.
Yeah, I mean, when did you start RS Solutions?
Oh, good point. When did we go to that course with you and Kaylin? Was that 2020 or 2021?
2021, I want to say.
Yeah, so we took that. I brought my entire instructor staff to you guys out to Pig River with you and Kaylin. I don't know. I can't remember exactly. I think it was November, right? That's when you guys usually ran the Pig River class. So we did that just because all my guys had never really been instructors before. They'd just been obviously snipers and teaching in the platoons. And I was like, well, hey guys, now you're about to learn how to do it like in a formal environment where you have to stand in front of a podium and do some things. But I wanted to optimize their performance because you guys were doing amazing things in 4 days. That I was like, we have 3 weeks. If we can't, if they can do it in 4 days, imagine if we go and learn from them, and then we have 3 weeks to take that and just feed it into these dudes that are going to go deploy and do some things. So we did that in November. Lee Wadsworth, my gunsmith, had opened up a local range in North Carolina out in Maysville, which is where we're hosting our courses later this year. And he called me up and me and Rob up. I was like, hey, we want to host some courses, get some recognition for the range. Would you guys mind coming and teaching some 3-day or 4-day classes or whatever? And we were like, yeah, man, just let us know what you want. And we ran that one class. It ended up being 2 days for like 11 guys. And it was all, people who were either customers of Lee's or friends of Lee's, people kind of we all kind of knew some of them, but we're all kind of in the same community there locally. And we ran that 2-day course, and everyone was like super stoked, gave us, they were super thankful, we're all excited. And me and Rob looked at each other and we were like, dude, why don't we just this is easy. This is like a Friday, Saturday, or Saturday, Sunday. Like, let's do this like for real on the side in between courses with Urban Sniper. And he was like, yeah, 100%. So I literally Monday morning jumped on the internet and Googled how to start an LLC in North Carolina. And about 45 minutes later and $128 later, I had submitted the request or whatever, the application for an LLC. I want to say that was January 7th of 2022. And then me and Rob basically were doing that like 1 day, 2 day courses basically on the side in between all the stuff we were doing with EOTG where we could fit it in, just helping out. Everything was done, at Alliance through Lee. So we were just helping out there, and we've been doing that since 2022. And then he ended up getting out of the Marine Corps early as well. I moved to Idaho, so then it was just me. And I've not been putting as much time and effort as I would like, just because life in Marine Corps. But yeah, so it's been about 4 years. This is year 4/5 where I had RS going, but it's kind of become more of a contractor specific type thing now, where I'm not really doing the civilian stuff.
Yeah.
Just because I don't have the time to do all the things that you would need to like really run a company, especially since we're running this other company that people may have heard of called the Cadre.
All right, John, after sniper school, what happened?
All right, so I did leave early. I left that tour instructing early about a year. So actually, like the first 6 months I was gone from the schoolhouse, I was kind of like on a temporary assignment, right? A TAD to First Recon. Because my former platoon sergeant, Dave, checked into Recon Training Company and he was like, hey, Alpha Company needs team leaders. If I can get you out of here early, do you want to go take a team on deployment? And I was like, at that point, I was kind of itching to get back to that side of things. So I was like, yeah, sign me up. So in order to get me like a successful SDA tour or special duty assignment tour, I went TAD for 6 months so that I could technically complete the tour. And then after that, I checked out officially, I think like December of 15, back into First Recon. Did that workup deployment. And then on the tail end of that deployment, I got a phone call. I was in Hawaii on our way back, kind of just enjoying a little bit of time to myself. And my current platoon sergeant, Dan, called me and he's like, hey, I just talked to the monitor. For those listening, that's the guy who kind of identifies where each individual is going to go in a specific military occupational specialty or community. And he was like, hey, I just got a call from the monitor. You have two choices when we get back. You can go to 3rd EOTG out in Okinawa, or you can go to Quantico and be a instructor at the Methods of Entry Schoolhouse, which is, big fancy words for breaching. And I had just put some things into motion that I wanted to be stateside for. So I was like, okay, if I have to leave the fleet either way, I'm not going to be deploying either way. I'll just stay stateside. I'll go to Quantico. I'll teach at the breaching schoolhouse. So got back from deployment in June of 17, and then I basically transitioned, got a couple, courses in, and then went to Quantico in October of 2017. I taught at the breaching schoolhouse where, I ran into Matt, as he said, again, later in that, but I taught from there from late 2017 to early 2021. Again, got orders back to 1st Recon Battalion, this time to be a platoon sergeant. I did a short deployment to Palau as a team leader with like 4 guys, for a few months, which was a great time. That's one of those deployments like everybody, kind of wishes they get to go on is like stay in a 5-star hotel, do your own thing. There's only 4 of you the whole time. It was a great time. Got back, took a platoon on a much longer deployment, 9 months. And then on the tail end of that deployment, I was in my team house in Guam. We were out there doing some jumping and diving and shooting, like sustainment training. And I was just, in the team house thinking like, man, what do I want to do when this is over, when I hang it all up? And that's when I reached out to you, Phil. And we started talking about what we're doing now. And Phil, you gave me a handful of pieces of advice and been following them since. And I got back from deployment in, again, June of 23? Yeah, June of 23. And been following your advice since. And now pretty much here we are. I'm still here in Camp Pendleton at the Special Training Branch. I've been teaching the urban and aerial sniper program, and then the close quarters tactics program that we have here for the last year and a half ish. And I'm set to go to Texas next month, and should be able to do my last couple years and then retire and move into what we got going on full time. So really looking forward to that.
Dude, what a crazy time to I honestly, after leaving the schoolhouse, I don't know, I wouldn't have thought that we would have been at this position that we are today.
No, I mean, we kept in touch, but it was more so like touch points here and there. Like I always would see you doing, a post from you or, something you had done, and I'll be like, completely transparent. It would always like I would just feel really happy for you. You know what I mean? Because like it's a lot to walk away from this, and especially like it's a big unknown, right? Like right now, if you stay in, you have job stability, you have just stability in general in your life. So it's a big unknown to take that leap. It's nothing crazy, right? People do it every day. People are living outside the military every single day. But for you, that was all you knew for 11 years. So to make that leap, that was a big, jump. And whenever I would see you, on social media or whatever, doing well, it really made me happy for you. So I would like feel like I got to tell, Phil like, hey, it's great to see you doing so well. Or, if I had any type of question in regards to, precision rifle stuff, you're the first dude that I thought of to hit up, you know. So I think those two things like really kept us in touch over the years. And then when I came to that realization as this is what I want to do afterwards, like there's one dude that I'm going to reach out to for advice, because you had been there and done it.
Dude, I'm glad that you said that. So thank you. But I think what gets me super jazzed up is when guys like you or Matt or our instructors that we'll talk about here soon, when they like would just reach out to me and be like, hey, I want to do something precision rifle, like, or even just like, when they would ask me a question in terms of like, hey, I want to buy a bolt gun or I want to do this, right? And even with how tapped out I am and my inability to sometimes respond back to text messages, I will like put as much effort into somebody as they're willing to, in terms of match my energy of like, hey man, like if this is the route that you want to go, then dude, like I'm with you 100% of the way, and I will guide you based off of what I know. And I honestly, that is ultimately what has led to the Cadre, right? Is like the people that have reached out to me consistently, and you guys, in terms of like, hey, I want to live this life of being a professional precision rifle instructor, right? And live that lifestyle, because like it is a tough lifestyle, right? Like I would have never imagined getting out of the Marine Corps how difficult it would be to truly say, like, what I do for a living is professionally shoot a precision rifle, and that's all I do. And I teach people how to do it. I shoot competitively, and it's like, after seeing, I shouldn't say my success with it, but how instrumental it's been with regard to my transition out of the Marine Corps. It's like, hey, how can I do this with our fellow snipers, right? Because it's a big, like you said, it's a big culture shock to go from, the Marine Corps, and especially our community, of like, being told, hey, you are the baddest mother effers on earth, right? Like, truly, like, we shove it down as seniors. I remember being a cyber school instructor and shoving it down these young Marines' throats in terms of trying to motivate them, like, hey, dude, you're the baddest dude on the planet right now, because you are literally training to hunt another human being. Well, then you get out of the Marine Corps, and then now you're no longer doing that, and you're like, who am I, right? Yeah, what do I do? And
What is better than life?
Because of, and Jon, you made a really great post the other day, post your Mason Valley match, about the community in the competition sport. It's not about winning and stuff like that. It's about going out there and meeting. And honestly, like, I say this every single time, and I try to give them credit where it's due, but the precision rifle community is truly is what is a reason for my successful transition, and finding a community amongst them have really, just allowed me to excel, I guess, because I learned a lot from every individual shooter, for guys that wanted to nerd out on reloading, or, dive into the, nuances. And I have to thank Gene Howenstein for this when I was at Urban Sniper, because, you guys know where I'm getting at with this.
The Godfather.
He was like, dude, he's like, dude, if you're a sniper in a room of other shooters or other people, like, you should know everything about every precision rifle in that room that you're in. And I was like, well, that's a tall order, but I'm gonna try to figure it out.
Yeah. And he was one of those dudes that he didn't just say it; he lived it. And I think,
dude, he did.
That was one of the reasons that it made it so impactful. Because I remember him saying that to us as well. And you're like, oh,
yeah, it was. Crap. I mean, Urban 2012, and I was like, because I think that was also the very first time that I was introduced to a different teaching style that I was accustomed, that, up until that point, that we were accustomed to going through courses in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
And obviously it had the fact that, Gene was not only a former Marine and sniper and reconnaissance Marine, but because he was, doing, I mean, everyone in our generation has, trained with Gene Howenstein, Huey, and all that stuff. So, big praise there. Those guys are great. But yeah, and I was just like, hey, how could I do that? And to be honest with you, there is a huge level of intimidation in terms of like, I know, reaching out to some people that we feel like have made it, right? So when you guys have reached out to me, like Matt or Jon, like, hey, when are we working together? When are we, when are we, when can we teach a class or whatever? It like, I mean, it motivated me to be like, hey, this is like, to just like, this is the roadmap and this is the way. Everyone has their own kind of journey, right? But it's like, I think, especially with the lessons that I've learned with how I've been in the industry, it's like, okay, hey, this is how I would navigate this. to better be prepared for, whatever scenario. So, yeah, I mean, I did take a 6-month hiatus, to focus on family. And then I got a phone call from Matt. And Matt, what did you say?
What are we doing? Basically.
Literally. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, because I can't remember exactly verbatim, obviously. But it was one of those, like, we were probably just talking. We were probably texting back and forth about gun stuff, and then I was probably like, I just need to call him because I can't understand what he's typing, because like I needed a better explanation. And then it was like, what are we doing? And you're like, yeah, I'm thinking about doing this or doing that. I'm like, does that mean you're back? Are you back? And you're like, I don't know. It was kind of like a John Wick moment, right? He's like, you're
I'm
like,
thinking I'm back.
I'm thinking I'm back. Yeah. And then I was, we started talking about potentially, I think we were just talking about maybe just running classes together, just kind of like, basically for you, you're like, just get my feet wet again, see if it's really what I want to do. Cause I know you said you were getting the itch, that you kind of wanted to, like, do it again. You just weren't, you were like, I don't know if I want to do this full time as much as I was before. Cause you're obviously family, you're going to school. Cause I mean, everyone can see every time you throw a video out, like, you were getting deep into the behind the camera stuff. You're like, this is my thing. And then crap, it might have been I want to say 3 days. I feel like it was 3 days. I guess that's when John called you or shot you a text.
John was actually me and John had already shot Sheep Mountain together, and
Okay.
I after seeing John, because like John and spending that week with John, because that was the first week that him and I were able to really train together from when we actually left the Marine. Like that was since 2015, and that was 2024.
Yeah, we did the course in Arbuckle, and then that was it. And then Sheep Mountain.
And I saw his passion when I stuck him inside my reloading room for fucking 7 days. And I was like, dude, this dude has got the bug like I did. And after you and I had talked, Matt, I was like, all right, man, if we're going to do this, like we need to have a team, because it's a lot to handle with just 2 people. Right.
Yeah. And that's what I was saying. It might've been 3 days later.
Yeah.
And you might've had that conversation with John. I don't know exactly when, but I want to say like 3 days later. I think that the text message literally was, what do you think about John? And I was like, sold. Pretty sure that's all I wrote was sold. There was no other conversation, just because we had all, like, the last, 38 minutes we've been talking about, like, how we've intertwined through life, in the pickle suit. And I was like, that's all you had to say. As soon as you said his name, I was like, yep, no questions. And then that's kind of where I want to say it's not where it spawned, but that's kind of where it exploded.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And then essentially it was like, okay, hey, I was thinking about the people that have reached out to me, and that also you have stayed in contact with, in terms of, all right, let's build a team of guys that are in the same boat. It's like, hey, they're passionate, they're dedicated to the craft, right? And maybe they don't have the opportunity that I had, right? Because I was fortunate enough to, when I got into competitive shooting, I was at the schoolhouse. I had great leadership between Lopez and Sotelo, giving me some of the weekends to go shoot matches and stuff like that. And I realized the guys, some guys didn't have that opportunity when they were right. Doesn't mean that they're not dedicated to the craft. Look at Steve, for instance. Steve's not a competitive shooter, but he's a hunter, and he hunts 3 to 5, like, probably he spends probably more time hunting coyotes than he does at home.
Anything else? Yeah, I feel like it. Yeah.
Would you say that's an accurate statement, John?
Literally, I just was talking to him. And I'm like, hey, are we still on for tomorrow morning? And he's like, I might be shooting coyotes. How's mid-morning looking for you? It's like, mid-morning works.
Yeah. So I mean, and then Corey, obviously Corey, you and Corey Robinson were at UATG together, and you guys obviously started RS Solutions together. And then, funny enough, Eric Dioro. And, Eric is funny just because, Eric I put him through cyber school all 3 times, but like just the fact that he came back through school 3 times tells me that, like,
Yeah.
all right, this kid wants it, right?
Yeah. That's an itch that can't be scratched.
Yeah, right. Like, dude,
doubt.
to have to get put through that 3 times, and regretfully so. One of the times was actually because of me, because I had him do this silly course fire after he had just finished second phase. That's neither here or there.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then we reached out to them and we're like, hey, we're putting this team together. This is what it's going to be called, and this is when we all want to link up for an instructor development program, or an instructor development week, which is what we called the invite, because you have to be invited there.
Yeah. And I want to say, like we were talking about a little bit earlier before we hit the live button, we weren't sure how big we wanted the team to be. It was just like, hey, we know 2 is not enough. We don't know where it's going to be too many, but every single name, like just to your point with Eric, we were like, all right, well, who are we thinking? I think every single name that got brought up, at no point were any of us like, oh, hell no, fuck that guy. It was like, oh yeah, I've worked with him or I've heard of him. Whether it was, us being an instructor for them as when they went through school, or working with them in a team, or working with them as a fellow instructor, every single person and where they were back then to where they are now and what they're doing, it was almost a no-brainer. Like I think we smooth brained our way through the whole selection process. To be honest, I was like, that's what it feels like, and I know that's like our running joke, but it was like,
Yeah.
because same thing. Perfect example, Steve. I think you shot that text in, hey, what do you guys think about Steve? And I think that was the similar response when you text me about Jon. I think me and Jon both were like, yes, or sold. It was like one word answers of like, why is he not already, like basically saying, why is he not already here? And it's been like that for the whole crew, all 7, 8, 9 of us, wherever we're at now. I can't even keep track. And so I think that speaks volumes for us, where it's like these dudes, because that's a course of, obviously Phil, me and you are 15, 16 years deep. Jon, me and you were just shy of that, like 14 and a half or 15 and a half. But all these dudes have a decade of connection with us in some way, shape, or form, even though we're in different states, different units, different coasts. Whereas as their names got brought up, it was almost like I was offended I didn't think about it. Like, damn, why didn't I think of that guy?
Yeah.
And each one of them individually, like you said, had reached out to one of us at a different time, and asked us like, hey, I want to do this. What do you do? Like, and to your point earlier, I know I don't want to backtrack too much, but realistically, I think everybody reached out to you, to include myself, to ask questions. Was like, because when you got out, like you said, Jon's like, hey, there's a big unknown. You showed us what a realm of possible was. Granted, though, your path in that was obviously different than ours, because, like you said, you kind of got out of the Marine Corps like not as expected or as planned as you wanted to, because things got a little wonky at the end. But then with you're super muted. I can't hear you.
I thought I was going to be a lifer.
Yeah, right. Because it was literally less than 30 days, and you're like, yeah, dude, I think I'm getting out. And I was like, bro, what happened? But yeah, so like how successful you were and what you were able to do, and all of us know each other. Like I think or all of us knowing you, we were like, dude, yes. And I think that worked out great, because a bunch of solid dudes were like, let's reach out to Phil. And like I said, I feel super fortunate. Basically, that's a lot of words for me to get to. Like, I feel super fortunate because each one of those guys had reached out to us. So it wasn't like we had to go find them. We really didn't. It was more like, hey, these people have already reached out to me at some point in the last couple months, individually. And it was like, why don't we, bring them into the Black Hoodie crew? And we were like, yes. And that's where we got where we're at now. And I think, like you said, super fortunate. It was almost too easy.
Yeah.
To be honest.
So the next thing is like, why the Cadre, right? I think a lot of people are going to ask that. Like, there's all these other training companies, especially like, maybe, I mean, depending on who you talk to, the market may be saturated or not saturated enough. I think it's not saturated enough because of how big the precision rifle community is growing every day, right? I mean, even look at what it was 10 years ago, in terms of the actual amount of national level matches there were a year. There was only like 3 or 4, and I remember going to one of them and like remembering training up like 3 or 4 months before going to it, whereas like now, you would shoot 3 or 4 locals matches before going to a national, or going to back-to-back nights. It's crazy. Anyways, so like, why the Cadre? Why where do I feel like there's a pain point or a gap in the industry? And the very first thing is, I think there's too many has-beens, right? Guys that obviously have a background, whether they're a sniper or not. But it's easy to talk. It's easy to wave your certificate and say, hey, I did X, Y, and Z. But to actually continue to walk the walk is a whole nother story, right? To be able to put your money where your mouth is and be like, hey, it's not about what I have done. It's about what I'm still capable of doing. And I mean, that was a big thing for me, was like, I want to build a team that is okay with getting their hands dirty, but also is able to perform on demand when push comes to shove, right? Because I don't think instructors are doing that enough, at least from what I've seen. Like, I feel like the status quo right now, I hear it all the time when students would come through class, like, I have never seen an instructor do a demonstration in front of me until you. It's like, what?
You see him on to your point, like you see him on YouTube or Instagram on a recording where, who knows, maybe that's take 15 where they get that, first round impact on that one target. Like, you don't know. But yeah, like straight up just, hey, this is the drill. I'm going to run it in front of you guys. That was one of the things I think when I was rolling with you guys in MDS, like it would be like, hey, who's shooting the drill? And I was like, what's up? They're like, somebody's shooting the drill before the students. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, do it. Let's do it. And I think that you've continued to show that, like I said, even you've continued to show that, like, hey, that's what we're doing. I mean, that was your big thing on the invite. I remember you're like, hey, first thing, day one, we're all going to run like this big eval. And I'm not going to lie, I was highly impressed with how well everybody did. Yeah. I was expecting, like some dudes to be like, a couple things here or there probably drop off. And I mean, I want to say overall 85, almost 90% hits.
We were all within 5 shots of each other.
Yeah, I think like the worst guy might have been, if there was, I don't know what the exact number of shots was, but if it was 100 shots, I think, the lowest score was like a 94 or 95. And that was all different types of, it wasn't just like, 100-yard drills. It was whatever. Short, medium, long distance, drills, sprinting, running up to position, OSOCs. Like, we put them through a whole bunch of stuff. And I was like, to be honest, I was like, man, nice. Like, super impressed. Yeah. I mean, everyone had maybe one bad drill, which is going to happen, like you're never going to get 100% all the time. But it was super cool to see when I was just like, okay, like just another one of those, like, dude, it's too easy. Like, the crew is too easy.
No, I was really impressed with everyone's capability as well. Like, I was pleasantly surprised, because I think going into it, we were kind of, talking as headquarters, we were just like, what is our level of expectation that we should have for these guys, right? And where it's like, okay, what are we going to deem acceptable and not acceptable? And I think they all surpassed our expectations.
Yeah. And I don't know. I was going to circle back to the last thing we were talking about, because it means a lot to me. all the instructors that I've had throughout my career that stand out the most are the ones that are willing to put their ego aside and perform on demand in front of the ones they're asking to do the task, right? Like, I'm not going to ask you to do something I can't do myself. I'm going to ask you to do as I do, not as do as I say, right? Like, I think that's a very important thing, and everyone we have, brought into the cadre, um, lives up to that, right? No one is above, like you said, walking the walk. Um, no one's scared to do that, and everyone is capable of doing that and willing to put the work in to be able to do it the right way, right? Like, they're going to get up in front of the class and do it and do it well, right? Because they care. They're not going to get up there and show their ass and then make some excuse or something like that, like, oh well, I haven't done this in a while, or my gun, this and that. Like, everyone's going to do it, and they're going to do it well because they care. And I feel that way about every single person we have in the group. um, you know there's not a person that we have here on the staff that, if they were asked to do something, they're going to put everything aside to get it done. You know what I mean? For the group, and like, for the fucking staff. And I think that's what I appreciate most about this group of individuals.
Yeah, because I think, I don't know if talked about it in the last the podcast that we've been doing for some of the podcasts we've done on my channel, but like, no one's gotten paid for any of this stuff, right? Everyone's been out of pocket. Like, the invite was all out of pocket. Everyone that traveled to Wyoming here, they all wanted to be here, right? To get their nuts crushed with murder boards and shooting and stuff like that, right?
Freezing cold.
And even, leading up to the invite, we had assignments every month, like, hey, we want you to do a video in this, which is your rifle cleaning, just to, number one, see what their level of understanding of their system was, as well as see how they presented, and then kind of where they were at with regard to information. I mean, the fact that they were willing to get dissected by their peers, right? I mean, it means, and just the progression of them being more comfortable in front of a camera, even them, from then to now, giving them their monthly assignments, of these guys. Okay, hey, you just see a huge difference, right? And it just shows that they're really putting the effort to make this a reality for everyone. So yeah, dude, I cannot be any happier with the guys that we have, and I appreciate the amount of work that they're putting behind the scenes that not too many people are seeing right now. Because I mean, it takes a while to build something like this, and to build it from scratch. The next pain point that I feel like the cadre will solve is standardization. Like, if there's one thing, at least for the Marine Corps, there was a standardization with regard to, okay, hey, you went to cyber school and you graduated. I know that you were capable of doing X, Y, Z, right? And right now, there is zero standardization in any precision rifle class or industry, even law enforcement, right? Like, your law enforcement snipers, sometimes you get a class that, they all went through the same curriculum or POI, and then some went through this just outdated 80s, don't use a rear bag type stuff, or like a 3-day sniper school, or, every law enforcement agency is different.
Yeah.
And so it sucks is when you're hosting a class, especially an advanced class, right? Because not everyone wants to, redo a basic class or whatever the case is, right? It was an immediate reality check that, like, this person does not know or should not be here, right? And you can't tell them that as a student or a client that's paying you. You're like, hey, dude, you don't belong to be here. But you can see over the course of the next 2 or 3 days that they are either holding up the class, right, from any kind of forward progression or learning, um, or they are, not enjoying their own experience because the topics are way too uh, 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 abroad for them. Case in point, we had a student come through our advanced class, and he had went through an intro class before that, but that intro class was like a 2-day, hey, this is what you dial and this is what you shoot, right? Like the instructor literally told him to do everything, and after 2 days, ominous dominus, he's now a basically trained precision rifleman, and now he's ready for the advanced class, right? And we're teaching him how to build and break and wobble zone, and he's like, what is a natural point of aim? Right. And so, like, and John, we talked about this. I think, and I say this as without trying to sound as arrogant or try to say this this is coming from a good place, but I think because as you start to shoot as much as a top level competitor, your just the more you shoot, your viewpoints of and your relativity of like what you feel like a basically trained precision rifleman changes, or your also definition of what an advanced or a good shooter is. Does that make sense? Because we've had inquiries with guys that are like, hey, we want to take one of your classes, we don't know which one to sign up for. Can you give us a rundown of like, what each class entails? And I met them with like, hey, not to be an asshole, but like everyone's definition of a good shooter is slightly different, especially for me, right? Like when I say like, hey, he's a good shooter, I'm thinking of guys like Austin Orgain, Austin Bushman, right? The guys that are the top 0.1% of the PRS, which are truly the top 0.01% of the world,
Yeah. It's hard to like, for me, right? Cause I don't want to come off as like arrogant or like, but it's almost one of those, like, if a dude hits me up, and I can honestly say only 2 times has a dude hit me up and said, hey, I don't know what class I should take. Have I ever recommended not an introductory level class? Because in my head, I'm like, if you were asking me what class you should take, that's telling me already that you don't know
Definitely.
enough to be able to understand that you should probably, that you're past an intro. Like I said, only 2 times, and that just recently happened with one of the guys who signed up for one of our classes here like last week, because I'd already gone through 3 classes with him as an instructor with him, to be like, you are well beyond intro. You are selling yourself too short. But the majority of the dudes, when they're like, yeah, I don't know where I should be at, like, this is kind of where I think I'm at, this is kind of what I do. Like, normally I can ask 2 questions. And like you said, like, what's natural point of aim? And they're like, oh, well, it's like, where you naturally aim the rifle. I'm like, okay, if that those 4 words are your answer, like, bro, you should probably be in an intro class. Not that you're not ready for it. I was like, but there's probably some concepts that you don't really fully understand. And I don't want you to get into a situation where you get to a class and be like, yeah, I totally picked the wrong class. Because how many times, like, honestly, like, I've been as a student going to a number of civilian classes, like I've been like 3 or 4, where there's always that one guy who's like, dude, I don't think this was not the right one for me. And like, you don't want him to have a bad time, so you're going to help him out. But if you're asking, unless you're asking very specific pointed questions, like, hey, this is my goal, this is what I'm trying to do, is this class going to fit the bill? That to me is a person where, like, what you want, and this is where you need to go. But if you're just, hey, I don't know which class is for me, what do you think? I've been shooting for this many years, and this is kind of what I do. I'm like, if you're asking that broad of a question and it's not a very specific goal-oriented question, you're probably not looking for an advanced class because you still don't really know what you want to do with the gun. Not that you don't know how to use it, but you don't know what you want to do with it. Hunt, compete, recreational, whatever. You should start there because that will give you a full understanding of the system and cycle of operations and components and different applications. And then from there, you'd be able to make a more educated decision on what you want to do with this gun right here, right now, post 4-day course or 3-day course. And that's just kind of how I've been playing it lately. Like I wasn't always like that, right? But as we've been doing this for over a decade, those are the trends I see, at least as far as the type of questions I get. It takes a very specific type of question bank, really, for me to be like, yeah, bro, you need to go to a comp course, you need to go to advanced course, you need to go to a hunter style course, because I said it like 3 times in a row now, but based off the questions I asked, that's how I know really where they're at. And 99% of the time, it's not an advanced course.
Yeah.
Go ahead, John.
No, I think even a lot of experienced shooters can benefit from an intro level course, especially like the foundational course that we offer, simply because of how well we all understand what goes into everything. Like take the invite, for example. How many of those guys, had been shooting for a while and still learned a ton? And not necessarily like they're learning groundbreaking new things, but they're learning the why behind what they're doing, right? Like, and they're learning the intimate details of what they're doing, right? Like, take like I think I've talked to you guys about it before. Like, you take a subject matter expert, right, who can talk surface level details about what they're doing, and then you take a substance matter expert who can talk all the nitty gritty details about everything that goes, all the in between. And I think what we do is a great job of breaking that down and showing everybody like the why behind it all, like why you're doing what you're doing, to achieve said end state. So I think I would probably venture to say a lot of people could benefit from attending an intro level course with us. To your point, Phil, yes, the difference between a good shooter that we all would think of like as a good shooter is going to be different than someone else's idea of a good shooter.
What makes a good shooter?
Ooh.
Right?
To me,
I mean,
to me it is 100% like a shooter that is subconsciously confident, right? Like I think once you reach that point, right, where you are able to apply the fundamentals of marksmanship subconsciously, right, and focus on all the external factors other than driving that rifle, that's where you start to make that transition, to me, from an intro level shooter to a solid, like more advanced level shooter, someone who's able
in a controlled or uncontrolled environment.
Both.
I think I would venture to say, like, now where I'm at in an uncontrolled environment, to where you're having to adapt to the situation around you. Like I think a decent shooter, right, can lay down in the prone in a controlled environment and do things the right way, effectively. But I think like now, as I see things, a good shooter can do that in no matter what the conditions are, right? And you see that, so it's so readily apparent when you start competing, you know, and everything is timed, everything is a little bit of induced stress, all the conditions are changing all the time, and guys are just able to perform consistently. It's really a different ball game. I think once you start competing, and you know, far better than me, but that's kind of where I've noticed the big difference,
Yeah, I would say
or at
my
least my outlook on it has changed.
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I would say like my only thing where I would slightly change with John's answer to that would be um, if for me, someone who's becoming a good shooter is someone like again when we say controlled or uncontrolled environment, because I'll call myself out right now. I have no problem. There has been stages where I had no idea what happened. I'm like, what the shit just happened right now? But being able to walk off that stage, sit down and look at all the pieces of the puzzle and be able to put them together to be like, okay, now I see where I messed up. Now I see where the problem was, to be able to make sure it doesn't happen again on the next stage. If we're talking, competition scene, because there's going to be some times where I'm like, dude, because I've like, and it was something silly, and like I said, I'll call myself out. I dialed a mill low, like in my head, I was supposed to go to 9-1, and I went to 8-1, and I couldn't even see impacts, and I was like, I have no idea what's happening, and I'm on the clock. But as soon as I got off the stage and I looked, and I was like, okay, now I found out what happened. I wrote down the wrong range on my arm board. The dope was correct. It was 8-1 for that range, but that wasn't the range to the target. I had the ranges wrong on and I was able to sort it out. Now, there were other times where I saw the impact hit a mill low and I was able to adjust on the fly because I had some feedback, right? So I'd say like a good shooter can either can see what's happening downrange. Sorry, I'm putting my hand in front of the camera, throwing me off. Can see what's happening downrange and make the adjustment, and may not know right then and there like what's happening, like what did I do wrong to cause that result, but I was able to adjust and fix it. But if they don't get any feedback, they can step away from the stage and sit down and be like, something went wrong, I don't know, I need to figure it out now before I move on, and just be lost. So there's a little bit of, for me, there's a little bit of wiggle room there where it's like, either if I can see feedback and just on the fly and make it work and not really know why that I had to do that, but I can step away from the stage and then identify it, or had no feedback, but I'm still able to step away and identify what the issue was and figure it out. Just to John's point, a lot of guys, one bullet goes awry, and they can see that and be like, oh, my wind call was off. Oh, my range was off. But they needed to have that feedback to be able to, break that process down under clock, within 10, 15 seconds of the next shot or less. But for me, like I said, I'm calling myself out. I've had a couple stages, on a 22 stage 2-day match where I'm like, dude, I have to go sit down and just think about life for a second because I don't know what happened. I didn't see anything. Nothing made sense. What did I do wrong? And then I have to go through and literally dissect, okay, after looking at all the variables, I see where I made the mistake, and now I know what I did wrong and how to fix it. Like I said, I'm not saying I'm the best shooter. Like I consider myself a good shooter, but there's every once in a while, like there's a stage or there's a scenario that'll catch me off guard, catch me with my pants down. And I'm like, I need to take a couple minutes to just reset and go step by step. And I think that's the only thing maybe, and that might have been what John, that might have been your point, but as I was listening, I was like, that's the only thing that I saw that might be a little different. Or maybe I'm just saying out loud what you were, insinuating. But I just had to say it because I've had a couple times where I'm like, oh, my chest hurts. I need to go sit down and feel sorry for myself for about 30 seconds and then pick my dick up out of the dirt and sort out my problems.
No,
So
definitely.
So what's next what can you expect from us, from the Cadre? Number one is, if you attend a class, we'll always shoot a course of fire in front of you. You'll always see us demonstrate a course of fire. You'll see us at matches. That's important to our staff and our ethos. I'm not expecting all the instructors to be top level competitors. I know John, that's a pursuit that John is taking right now amongst himself, which is awesome. And, but I'm not expecting, everyone to be the next Austin Bushman or Austin Orgain or Morgan King. Right. Because at the end of the day, like, they have other priorities in their lives, right, that don't revolve around precision rifle shooting, which is fine, right? I think that's okay, because I think it does take another level of commitment to try to compete at those higher levels. But just to get their foot in the door and be like, hey, I'm coming out there, I'm seeing what competitors are doing, I'm seeing what's capable with a precision rifle, right? And that's what I told the guys, right? Like, hey, like, I want you to go to competitions, because like, if you think that you're good and you go out there and you go to a match and, you know, you place middle of the pack, and whether you thought you shot well or didn't shoot well to your ability, right? And the you know, think about the top 5 shooters and you look at their scores, like, that is what's capable in the conditions that you shot, right? Because I think that's another perspective when you are faced with uncertain conditions, right? Or like shitty conditions, you're like, man, how does anyone shoot through this? You know, we've all been there, right? Like, I'm not hitting anything. And then you look at the leaderboard and you're like, how did that dude only drop 5 shots in conditions like this? And you're like, dude, that is what is capable with a precision rifle in 2025. And clearly they've got to figure it out. So, you know, you either can figure it out, or, hey, you know, so that's the first thing.
I think the big thing, to your point, sorry, I don't want you to lose your train of thought, is relevance, right? Our goal is everyone on the staff is going to stay relevant, and it's not going to be every facet. Like, right, like we brought up Steve, right? Steve is a hunter through and through. So what Steve will always bring to the table is relevance in the hunting aspect. You know, yourself competing, Jon competing, me, I'm like I said, I'm going to stay relevant competing until, you know, I'm retired, and then I can deep dive into it. Our goal is, like you said, we're going to stay relevant in some way, shape, or form in some aspect of shooting, so that when you show up to a course, it's not us waving our cert from 20 years ago, from 15 years ago. It's like, hey, this got me in the door back in the day, but this is what I'm doing now. That's keeping me abreast of what's going on and keeping me relevant, so that when I'm talking to you, you understand that I'm not tooting my horn from 15 years ago where I laid in the prone and shot, you know, in 5 miles an hour or less wind or whatever the conditions were back then.
I keep thinking of the Eddie Murphy stand-up. What have you done for me lately? You know, like, you know, like, what have you done for me? No one gives a shit what you did yesterday. What are you doing today?
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing, is just everybody stayed relevant, you know, and well-versed in, you know, everything that's taking place time now.
Yeah. No one's just resting on their loins or whatever it is.
Laurels, I think it is.
Yeah, laurels or loins, the L word.
Whatever a laurel is.
We're gonna continue to. The Cadre is going to continue to strive to grow as a staff, and that's what we want to bring to the table. If there's something new that we learn or get exposed to, we're not keeping it a secret. Like, what we know is what you're going to know in that respective space and that respective course, right? Like, to a point where, like, if you're asking, hey, what course should I go to? We believe a foundational level shooter should know these 10 things, should walk away and be able to know these 10 things or figure these 10 things out in a respectable amount of time. Because again, like we say for everything, right? You go to a course, you can only retain so much, but you're going to know, like, hey, if I don't know the answer now, I know where to go to find the answer and solve my problem on my own, and not, you know, my pet phrase is, I need an adult. Like, you're not going to need to go ask an adult. You're going to be able to go find the information and solve, as Phil says, you know, find the truth for yourself or find the answer for yourself. And that's the standard that we want to bring to the table. Like, you should be able to walk away and be like, hey, I may not know all the answers right now, but I know the 70% solution to getting the answer that I need to solve that problem. That's what we do for you lately. Sorry, Phil, I might have totally thrown your whole momentum off. I didn't mean
it's
to.
All right. I think this deserves its own podcast. But, you know, Nick Bazone and I had a conversation about the development or the roadmap of an instructor, right? Like in terms of like you become an instructor, right? You regurgitate, that's what you do. Then you become a teacher, right? You have a little bit more substance, and then eventually you become a developer, right? And I think with the variety of the cadre, right? I think we have all three levels. Um, I would say we have right now probably we're trying to take our instructors and morph them into teachers, and not saying that like for me, you know, like one of the things that I wanted to challenge myself, and I say this all the time, is I want to take a great shooter and make him phenomenal, right? Like, not that I don't like teaching the basics and stuff like that, but like I wanted to challenge myself in terms of like, okay, now as a teacher, do I have what it takes to take somebody that already knows how to shoot really well and now take him to that next step? But also, I think what I'm more motivated about with our team is seeing if I can now not only make a very effective shooter, but a very effective communicator, right? In terms of like, okay, hey, you know all this information, you know, based off of your years of experience. Now tell it to me and tell me why you think, right, your bipods or your rifle setup is the most conducive, or you know, in a way that's easy to understand. Because I truly think that is always going to be what makes or breaks the difference between, you know, good instructors and teachers, is the depth of going into detail of the understanding. Because I guess we just live in a world of so much information. It's so easy to question and ask, well, why do you do that? Right? Because I like, you always hear like, oh, well, this person or this YouTube channel said differently. And at that point, right, you either, you know, you either agree with them or you show them like, hey, you know, this is what I do and why. And you immediately follow up with some type of action that proves your point.
Yeah, and I think that's especially with where you're at now, like you're saying, you want to make a great shooter phenomenal, or you want to make a guy a great teacher. Again, like you're saying, right? What are we bringing to the table? All the guys on the team are striving now because we already know they're good shooters in their respective class, right? And I say that, you know, just to be like what we said earlier, hunter, operator, competitor, but each one of them wants to be able to take what they know and deliver it to somebody else in a manner that they can comprehend and process. With the amount of information that's out there, like you said, right? Some guys are still at that point where what information is relevant right now, because it's all relevant, I would argue, right? No information is really not relevant, but is it relevant here and now in this capacity? Because me and John have talked about this, right? Where it's like, when are we teaching too much? Right? When are we overloading the guys with so much information that now we've paralyzed them because they don't know? They're like, hey, you gave me all this stuff, but now I don't know what's right and what's wrong. Because again, you know, and I don't want to say anyone's particular name because I don't want to feel like I'm calling anyone out. So I'm going to say Joe. That's who I'm going to use. Joe from Joe's training course taught me this, like you said, right? He's like, hey, this guy said this, or this video YouTube channel said that. I'm not saying he's wrong. And we talked about this in one of the other podcasts, right? Where we're like, hey, I'm not saying he's wrong, but not every environment is that going to be right. And we want to make sure that you understand that, like, take his information, take our information. So when you get into a scenario, and I think we were talking about it, like, you know, just something as simple as the bipods, right? There's no one size fits all. This bipod height is not going to fit in every single scenario, but we want you to be able to identify, like, oh, I need to lower my bipods because the target is at this angle, as opposed, you know, the target's low from my shooting position as opposed to high. And you're a student to be able to walk away and go train and then be like, oh, light bulb. I remember when Jon was talking about like, hey, you're going to have to adjust like your position's never perfect 100% of the time. I have to identify where my target's at and understand that I need to lower my bipods or I need to raise them up in this scenario. And a student to be able to figure that out on their own post course, if they get at the course, super awesome. But if they are 3 months down the road and that's when the light bulb clicks, like we've done our job, right? They may not get it right then and there because again, they're still processing the information. It hasn't fully marinated and like cooked in their brain, but the ingredients are there. They're just trying to figure out how to figure the recipe out. And it might take 2-3 times going to the range or 2-3 months over time of going to the range where like, oh, now I figured it out. Now I'm cooking. Like this target is in this location or at this angle, and I have to do X, Y, and Z to engage that target effectively. And that's what we want everyone to eventually get to. And everyone's going to, like you said, everyone's on their own journey, their own path. It's going to take some people longer than others, but our goal is to give you the ability to do that, whether it's next week, next month, or next year.
Some people's incubation time is longer than others, right?
Yeah.
Saturate, incubate, illuminate.
Yeah, because I can't remember what it was. So I'm going to call myself out again for being a smooth brain. But Phil asked that question 1 or 2 podcasts ago, where you're like, hey, when was it that, this thing clicked for you? And I was like, man, it was 9 years after the fact. And you're like, dang, really? And I was like, yeah, bro, it just took that long for that particular thing to like finally be like whiz bang. And I'm like, oh yeah, silly, duh. But other things might take 30 minutes, or some things might just need somebody to say it out loud. And then I'm like, boom, got it. I just needed to hear you say it in a way that made sense to me, because when I saw it on the screen or I read it in a book, I understood the words, but I didn't understand the concept in a contextual format, right? So I think that's where I think we're going to shine, is because we have so many dudes with so many different backgrounds where you're going to walk away from a course, no matter which course you come to, and you're going to have that information. And it might be a phone call later where they might, because like I said, that's one thing for me. Like once you come to a course, you may not text me whenever you want because I may not give you my phone number, but you can message me or email me whenever you want and be like, hey, when you said this, did you mean this? And I'm like, yes. And then you're like, boom, light bulb, got it. I think that's going to be where the money is really made. Just as a group and as a community, as in the shooting world, where like that's going to be the big ticket item there, where like guys are going to understand, like we are going to make sure that these guys, when they walk away, they understand that. And I can only say that so many times, so I'm going to stop saying it because I think I'm getting hot because this hoodie's killing me right now in the basement, and I'm losing my train of thought. So I'm gonna smooth brain my way out of that sentence right there. Muted.
You're muted, homie.
I've had this wicked cough, so I try to mute myself when I have to cough. But I think it's no secret that all three of us are very passionate about what we do. We're passionate about teaching. We've been teachers and leaders throughout all of our careers, and it's just going to continue to evolve from there. What I'm really looking forward to is just being able to hopefully inspire our fellow snipers that maybe again, maybe like this is a shot in the dark in terms of like making a life as a precision rifle shooter or long range whatever, right? And I would hope that we are a beacon of light of like, hey, this is possible if you are able to like bring your ego down and just like, hey, I mean, you do have to go through the gutter for a little bit in terms of like whatever your route is. But I cannot stress enough. The very first thing that I'll always tell a sniper is, hey, find your local precision rifle shooting community and go to a match and tell them that, you were a Marine sniper, and, tell them, like, don't show them, or, but like, don't like be like, hey,
Yeah.
like you guys know, getting that right. Like, and most of the people are more than willing to lend you bag, lend you gear, whatever, and bring you. A sniper that was with 1-1 reached out to me. Actually, I saw his post on Facebook a few weeks ago, and him and I ran into each other at the gym. I was teaching at sniper school. We ran into the Horno gym, and I saw his big tribal SS on the back of his truck. And I was like, it was like one of those like moments of like, oh, dude, you're a hog. What's up? And his name is Jordan, and Jordan Rick from 1-1. Matt, do you know him?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So
I met him for the first time earlier this year, actually, or earlier last year.
He just started getting into the precision rifle community out in Wisconsin. And I've shot in Wisconsin a couple of times. So I was like, dude, that's awesome. Like, I'm glad that you're doing that. Like, guys like us need that, to get back behind a precision rifle. Cause like, dude, that's all we did for however many years we spent in the Marine Corps. So, hopefully the Cadre can be, again, a source of inspiration of like, hey, it is possible to continue to refine or shoot your craft, no longer as a sniper, but, just a precision rifle enthusiast. And there's so much more that you can learn about this art that bring you back to the glory days of the M48 series sniper rifle, and how the 308 was the best round back then.
I don't want to circle us, down a rabbit hole, because I know we want to keep this right about where we're at. But to your point earlier, Phil, about you exiting the Marine Corps and going into competing and the precision rifle community on the civilian side, a huge part about this community, or the sniper community, recon community, is just, in fact, that, the community, right? Like, I show up every day to work and I'm surrounded by my best friends. You know what I mean? So like, at the very least, I have that. And I think for you transitioning out, going into a similar community, it definitely, I think, probably helped your transition. And I would offer that to all the snipers that are listening to this podcast, whether you're still active or your prior service. Like, you can find a similar community, right, in the precision rifle world. And you'll find a lot of like-minded individuals in a very welcoming environment, that everyone's just out to help you out. And it's competitive, but it's a friendly, competitive environment, right? Like, at the end of the day, everyone's going to be willing to help you out. And if you're on the fence about getting into it, I would just say, dive head first, because you won't regret it. So I wanted to bring that up earlier when you were talking about your path, but it wasn't a time to hit it. And then you said that. So wanted to make sure we got into this one.
No, it's perfect. Yeah, no, man, I'm excited. I'm excited for what we're going to build. I'm excited for everything that we have currently been putting on our plate. But more importantly, I'm excited for everything to materialize, and for us to get our name out there together. I think a lot of people, we have our individual relationships, and we're well known individually throughout the community. But I think together we're brand new. So I'm hoping that with what we have coming down the pipe provides value to the community first and foremost. And if anything, if you're not able to take a class with us, we get it. Let us know like what we can do to support you. Because even just subscribing to YouTube or Instagram, like, it helps out. in one way, shape, or form, right? Especially when we are getting, constructive feedback with regard to what type of information that you guys want to see from our channel. So, yeah, I appreciate you guys, both Jon and Matt. You guys have been extremely awesome accountability partners, but just the amount of work that you guys have been putting behind the scenes, because both of you guys obviously still have day jobs. So the fact that you're able to work this from the 4 to 8 or 4 to 7 before you have to go put your green suit on is admirable. And we're on 3 different time codes. In about a couple months, I'll be the one on the far left and Jon will be in the middle. But Matt, you'll still be on the East Coast time.
Yeah.
But we've been, with how crazy our schedules are, we're still trying to make it work. So I appreciate your guys' patience with me, with my good idea theories. Because I think I have a lot. I know I have a lot. I know there is a lot that this company can do, and what is out there that is pain points that we can solve as a team. So, yeah. Next podcast, I think we're gonna do who is Jon, who is Matt, to get a little bit deeper background of kind of where you guys came from. If anyone wants to know who Phillip Velayo is, go to my YouTube channel. It's there.
Watch the Tika vlog.
Yeah, watch the Tika vlog. But yeah, I think that'll be podcast 2 and 3, and then we'll start rolling our instructors, and then hopefully have a steady pace of, we got a lot of podcast ideas for talks and stuff like that. So yeah.
All right.
What's our sign off? We got to figure out a sign off.
Yeah. I think for this one, we should just wrap up with you talk Alaska, I talk NC, he talks Texas.
Yeah. So as a recording of this podcast for 2025, that this is being released, because depending on when you find the Cadre, if you circle back to podcast 1 to listen to who we are, this year we're teaching Alaska. June of 2025, I got invited to go teach up there from Sarah Stallone from Accurate Advantage, which was awesome. And I'm coming back home. For those that don't know who I am, I was born and raised in Anchorage, Alaska, which come full circle 36 years later. I'm 36 this year. Yeah, 36 years later, I'm being asked to teach precision rifle classes in both Kenai and Talkeetna. So we'll be doing a performance competition course in Kenai at the Snowshoe Gun Club range. That is the first week, June 4, 5, 6. And then June 8 through 11 is our foundation course at the Upper Susitna, which is in Talkeetna, as well as an intro to competition course immediately following. That is June 12 through 14. Excited for those. Excited to meet the precision shooters of Alaska. I've been wanting to teach up there, and yeah. So that is our first stop, followed by Matt.
Yep. So with that one, we've got, as I mentioned earlier, Alliance Outdoors, where I've done a lot of training out there. We actually have 2 courses running in September. The first one is the foundation course from the September 17th to the 20th. And then we have a short break for the weekend. And then we have the intro to competition going from the 22nd to the 25th of September. Myself will be out there. Eric will be coming out there to hang out with me as well. And it'll all be out there in Maysville, North Carolina. So they're up on the website, so you can go ahead and jump up on there. If you have any questions, you can hit me up on Instagram, matt.solo06. 006. Or honestly, you can shoot an email out to solo@thecadretraining.com. I've got that with me 24/7, and my camera just went out, so now you're getting the rainbow again. I don't know. It's been finicky today. I think it happened earlier as well. But yeah, so big thing. Like I said, we'll be running them out there in North Carolina, so that'll be our East Coast section later this year. I'm just gonna run with the rainbow because it won't self-correct. Please, like I said, reach out on Instagram or the email, and I'll answer any question you guys got. And then the following that one is course being hosted with Jon out in Texas.
Yeah. So to wrap up the year, we've got 2 courses taking place down in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I'll be the lead instructor for both of those. We have a foundation course going 2 to 5 December, and then an intro to competition course going 7 to 10 December. Both of those are going to take place at Gravestone Precision, just outside Dallas-Fort Worth area, about 45 minutes. Just like Matt said, if you have questions about those, you can reach out to me directly at jon@thecadretraining.com or thecadre.jon on Instagram. Be happy to answer any of your questions. Hopefully see some of you all out there. Really looking forward to training with you all.
All right, guys. Until then, follow us on YouTube, follow us on podcasts. This will most likely be on Apple and Spotify. We'll also post video podcasts, and follow us on Instagram, which will all be linked down below. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Let us know down in the comments what you guys want to hear from us, what kind of topics. If you guys want to hear precision rifle stuff, you guys want to hear sniper stuff, we can cover it all. If you want us to bring guest speakers, let us know who you would want to see on the podcast that we can talk, pick the brand. I personally would love to bring a lot of our seniors and our instructors, as well as a lot of our peers that, are still kind of in the community in their own way, kind of working behind the scenes. But we will see you guys in the next episode. Until then, you guys know the drill. Keep your face on the motherfucking gun.